아, 에벌런트 왔는데? 에벌런트 왔는데 뭐가 부족하지? 연구실? 저쪽 연구실 말하는 건가? 아니면 저 신성연구의 연구실을 말하는 건가? 어디 연구실을 말하는 거지? 아, 너무 어려워, 이번 거. 생각했던 거보다 기네요. 일단 여기 연구실인지 증거 불충분이 너무 많아. 거기 연구실인가? 그쪽? 아, 답답하네.
Mr. Hamish, was someone from your family connected with Kew Gardens?
Family? No. I'm the only one with a passion for botany.
I do not think so. This photograph of you and your father at Kew Gardens suggests the opposite.
그쪽 가서 해야 되나 봐요.
But you have no right to.
Do tell us more about your father.
He was, indeed, the greatest botanist of his time in the British Empire. He worked together with Montague Dunn until the end of his life. He brought me in at the age of 12.
Did he get on well with Mr. Dunn?
No, I couldn't say that. They expanded Kew Gardens together, that was all. And it was all my father's work, for Dunn always lived the high life.
So Mr. Dunn was not helping your father?
Oh, yes, he provided the financial support. And as far as he was concerned, that fulfilled his role. But the worst of it was, he declared himself as the master of Kew Gardens. Fame meant nothing to my father, so it was easy for Mr. Dunn to take all the credit.
There is a bust of Montague Dunn in the nursery.
A bust? Oh, that old thing. Further proof of that outrageous ego of his.
But why in that room, in particular?
Oh, I don't know. It has always been there.
It is strange, because I recovered a fragment of the bust inside the Colonial Collection Room.
Really? Oh, well, so I am mistaken. It ought to have been removed during the cleanup. This room is so small.
Do you know who moved it?
I have no idea. Surely Mr. Dunn requested it. Do you have any more questions like this? Because fragments of rock are not my responsibility.
Evidently.
이상하군.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
알버트 던을 신문해야겠네요.
I perceive that you are passionate about the Royal Navy.
Passionate? No, not really. I like ships, that is all.
Are you quite sure? You do not seem to be so interested in plants.
It's difficult, that's all. My future is here. It has never been about anything else.
And yet I know that the Royal Naval College rejected your application.
Ah, you truly are as clever as they say. Yes, that's correct. and in fact my father was strongly against the idea. He did his best to ruin my plans, although I almost did succeed. But my dreams were shattered, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon.
뭐 전혀 도움이 하나도 안 돼. 그 동기라고 확정을 연결이 하나도 안 돼. 뭐 다짜고짜 죽여. 와, 이렇게 연결이 하나도 안 되는 것도 처음인데? 진짜 연결이 전혀 하나도 안 돼. 와, 진짜 하나도 모르겠다. 와. 저 사람 아직도 저러고 있네요.
This substance is an alkaloid.
이게 없어서 못한 거야, 설마?
Found in the bushes at Kew Gardens. Perfect, Watson.
아, 여기서 하는구나.
Our experiment.
아, 버퍼 심해요? 아, 나 집에 가서 해야 되나봐. 여기서 못하나봐. 저거 하나 없어가지고. 이거 하러 집에 가야 되나봐요. 실험을 해보세난가 해보게난가 뭐 이런 거 보면 다시 하러 가야 되나봐, 나. 네, 잘 자요. 빠이. 아까 왜 저거를 확인을 안 하고 왔을까? 저 병 하나 때문에.
that one of these plants would be capable of releasing a toxic vapor. I need to find out exactly how it could be done. I shall begin now. Watson, if you are at all optimistic to have dinner this evening, then I'd recommend that you put on the gas mask.
뭐 어떻게 하는 건데?
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
어?
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid.
제일 오른쪽인가?
I find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating.
뭐지? 이거야. 어?
It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more.
그럼 이걸로 벌려놓는 거 아닐까?
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid. It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more.
입을 계속 벌려놓는 게
This is a strange... No reaction.
뭐지?
It appears to have fallen inact. My word! It shot a spike at me after I stabbed it with a pin. I imagined that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased the strength of my attack.
아, 열어놓고
It appears to open after being soaked with
얘는
alkaloid.
닫아놓고
This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. This plant...
빨리 넣어! 됐어.
This plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars. This plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars.
뭔지 모르겠는데? 이게 뭐야?
My word! It shot a spike at me after I stabbed it with a pin. I imagined that its reaction would be ferocious if I increased
왜
the
이렇게
strength
어려워?
of my attack.
어.
Toxic gas with spores.
어?
Extraordinary.
이거였군.
The plants would be capable of killing only if they were directly next to the victim and stimulated at precisely the right moment.
Let us take our caterpillars to the Colonial Collection Room. We may see things more clearly there.
It is too early, Watson. Our suspects will be there. Let us investigate Kew Gardens one more time and ask some questions.
뭔가 너무 많아. 너무 많아. 너무 많아. 빠바이. 나도 범인을 빨리 찾고 싶어요. 아, 진짜 모르겠다, 이거는. 어느 정도 딴 거는 가다가 약간 느낌이 오는데, 이건 하나도 모르겠어. 아예 감이 안 와. 저기 문이 갑자기 닫히네?
Can you tell me if you saw Mr. Montague Dunn on the day of his death?
Yes, of course. I met him, and we went to see Albert, his son, at around 9:30. He appeared quite calm.
What were you doing on the morning of the accident?
After paying multiple visits to Albert, I had a little talk with Miss White. Then I returned to my desk to complete some paperwork. Suddenly I observed that Mr. Dunn was not feeling well, so I ran immediately to fetch Albert. I clearly remember that it was around 10:30, for I was late that morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
얘한테 물어보러 가자.
Your father's death does seem highly suspicious. What were your movements here on that day?
Suspicious. Well, I was working in the seed house, taking care of something, or Lear Pontus, or... No, wait. Ah, these Latin names. And I spent so many hours trying to memorize them.
Did you see your father that day?
얘는 뭐가
Yes.
뭔지도
He came
몰라서
here with Mr. Hamish for his weekly visit.
못했을
There
것
was nothing
같은데?
unusual about that.
And then?
Nothing. They stepped out to the backyard. It was perhaps 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Then about 10 minutes later, I saw my father heading for the dry tropics room while Mr. Hamish returned
나
here.
집중 하나도 안 되는데 시간... 와, 이거 어떡하냐?
And Mr. Hamish and Miss White, what were they both doing that morning?
Mr. Hamish visited me a couple of times. I also saw him returning from talking with Miss White, and that was at 10 minutes past 10. But then he ran back here to me to tell me that my father was feeling unwell. We hurried across to the water lily room, and I found my father lying dead on the floor. Oh my God.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you
망했어.
again soon.
시간 이런 거 나오는데 하나도 모르겠어. 아, 비켜. 왓슨! 아나! 왓슨이 길 안 비켜줘요. 저는 길을 잃었어요. 아, 펭구인님 감사합니다. 이게 다 저 지도도 뭔가 연관이 있는 것 같고 다 뭔가
Can you
연관이
tell
있는데
me what
하나도
Mr.
모르겠다.
Dunn was doing upon the day of his death?
I can, but there is nothing very special to say. I was in the laboratory when I saw Mr. Dunn heading towards me. Tuesday is the day of his weekly visit. It was supposed to be at 9, but he was 10 minutes late, as usual.
And then?
Well, he came in to say good morning. Then I saw him spend 2 or 3 minutes by the plants outside the laboratory. After that, he ran out in the direction of the nursery, where Mr. Hamish was working. He was always in a rush during the inspection, you see. I would pity anyone who stood in his way.
어?
And that was the last time you saw him?
Yes. I stayed in the laboratory until 20 minutes to 11, when I heard the cries of Albert and Mr. Hamish from the large glass house. I joined them as soon
다들
as I
자고
could,
있어요,
for I
지금.
knew that something must be very wrong.
What exactly were you doing
아까
in
10시
the laboratory?
반이라고 얘는
I
10시
was recording an
40분.
experiment for my thesis. I only stopped my work once when Mr. Hamish visited me briefly around 10 o'clock.
You say you were recording an experiment when the tragedy occurred. Might I listen to the roll?
Certainly. Please do. You will find it in the laboratory. It is number 320.
Thank you, miss.
아까 들어보지 않았나?
Everyone has gone, Holmes. The way is clear.
뭐.
When Montague Dunn was standing close by the plants, the caterpillars were released and caused the deadly spores to activate.
그렇지.
Panicking, and likely already half asphyxiated,
그러니까.
Montague Dunn started back and knocked over the bust. He rushed to the door, but it was locked. He had to force it open with his shoulder. We already know the outcome. Montague Dunn collapsed and died not far from the pool. Well, it is time to perform our experiment on the ventilation system.
누가 그랬냐가 문제잖아 지금. 누가 그랬냐. 여기 어디요? 길을 못 찾겠네. 아이고, 여기 어디요? 나왔다. 저기다.
First of all, I need to visit the colonial collection room to see how those caterpillars dropped onto the deadly plants.
부들부들. 식민지. 부들부들? 거기가 어딘데? 여기야? 여기가 어디지? 부들부들? 아씨. 길 진짜 모르겠네? 비켜. 뭐 돌다 보면 나오겠지 뭐. 그냥 아까 본 그 길대로 가는 게 낫겠어요.
The caterpillars could only fall from the ventilation.
저기 애벌레 매달려 있어.
Our caterpillars are in place. I'll activate the ventilation system so that they fall down. Watson, stay here and observe.
All right, Holmes.
알비로 뭐 하라는 거야?
These windows were perfectly cleaned.